Well, here we are on Monday, and the damp hand of autumn is easing summer off stage, I think. Would that be correct, Pat? Is that the way it's going in Donegal?
Absolutely, Jude. There's definitely, what would you say? Autumnal light is here. You can feel it. The air is here as well. Jude, when you look out now, it's what 8:10 last night. It was dark.
Aye, and it's kind of chilly too. Just a wee bit of chill in the air.
Well, what is it? Last night they were warning it was down to 3 degrees or something at night.
Oh God, that's a lot. It is a drop now. On the other hand, we did have a spell of very, very warm weather, and we shouldn't be complaining because, by and large, I know as a summer, assuming you're not a farmer, well, I suppose even if you were a farmer, as a summer, it was very good. We had a lot of good weather.
Well, the farmers, I don't know. Of course, they all complain about anything anyway. But my God, Jude, the mixture of rain and sunshine, and they must have had record levels of growth of crops.
Yeah. Well, I drove from Mayo up to back home here in Belfast, and that'd be about a month ago. And you see the farmers in the field saving the hay. It was incredible, and the huge big bales that they now have out in a big field. God, it was gorgeous. In the evening with the sun falling on it. It was like an outdoor display of art or something rather than farming. Anyway, that's all right for the rural people. We're urban people ourselves, and we are concerned with political matters. So we have 4 things to talk about here at least, but we'll try to keep it tight because I think we're running over our decided
a lot of times.
Okay, Angela Merkel is a woman who's drawing your eye for one reason or another, Pat. Why is that? What is it about Angela Merkel that attracts you?
Jude, she's retiring after 18 years, I think at the end of this month after the election. I think the elections are on the 26th of September, and whoever off she goes. And when I thought this morning when we were just chatting or we were thinking about topics, I thought, compare Angela Merkel.
I should have said Angela. Sorry, that was my.
No, but we say Angela, but it is Angela in the German.
Angela, yeah.
Not that it makes a lot of difference. She's not going to take offence at our pronunciation. Well, I hope not. Anyway, no. But here's the thing: she's been 18 years, no scandals, no financial irregularities, no brothers or sisters appointed to key positions. She has no yachts, no sports cars. She stayed in the same apartment. She apparently does her own shopping. She does her own laundry, etc., etc., etc. And here's the real kicker, as a friend of mine used to say. She's leaving Germany, possibly, or probably, the most successful economy in the world. It's easily the best in Europe, and so on. And you add all that in the throes of German reunification and all the problems with the crisis and so on. And you compare her to, say Donald Trump or Boris Johnson. I would say Angela Merkel is a leader every country deserves, but so few yet.
Mm-hmm. When you compare her with Boris Johnson or with Donald Trump, you're setting the bar fairly low there.
But those were contemporaries.
Bad as them.
Yeah.
But she certainly is an unglamorous figure. You look at her and you see, she's not only unglamorous, but she's no waist to speak of, and she's got a sort of a pudgy face, which is, that's just a physical fact. And that maybe fits in with what you're talking about. She's not concerned about her appearance any more than other things like yachts or high living or doing her own laundry, that she's a very grounded woman. But you see, of course, she's a great advantage of being the Chancellor of Germany. And the Germans as a race are a very, very formidable people when it comes to organizing things and getting to work. I remember the time that they were beginning when they made the decision they were going to reunite Germany. And I remember talking to a guy from West Germany, and he was giving out about it. And he was saying, these bloody East Germans, they're lazy and their economy's bad, and we're going to have to take on that burden and so on. But you see, the Germans, once they put their mind to it, they did it. And as you say, Pat, they're now probably the most prosperous economy in Europe, despite all the bad things that have happened. So you would put that all down, would you put it down to Angela, or would you say it's a combination of Angela and that work ethic that the Germans have?
Yeah, well, I would say probably the latter. But here's the thing, Jude. She made the right decisions on nearly every occasion. She brought stability. She was cool and calm, and she also, Jude, there's a lot of common decency in her. She tried to do the best that she could, and like when you consider I remember. Trump made the about shithole countries and about refugees and all the rest. Merkel made a statement around the same time that was the polar opposite, about the fact that we're all human beings and we need to be looked after and things need to be done properly. And she basically, someone described her one day as the queen of the world, because she stood basically for common decency at a time when, the world, hey, do you look at it across the world now, and it's quite serious. You had, well, maybe slight changes last week, but you had Trump at one stage, you had Orban in Hungary, you had Bolsonaro in Brazil, you had the guy in Poland, you had Boris Johnson, right-wing populists, basically peddling fascist, we don't want refugees, and migrants stay at home, and all this sort of lock them up, and racism being peddled. And she stood for the old-fashioned values. And for people like me, like I'm a failed hippie from the 1960s, she stood for something decent.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Mind you, and I was especially impressed by her response to the flood of immigrants that suddenly posed a problem, partly for Europe and for other, I guess, America too. And she came out clean, and essentially she said, as many as wanted to could come into Germany. Yeah. But she got a lot of backlash from that.
Absolutely.
They thought that wasn't a good way to do it. In fact, there was, if anything, they were saying we're going to put in strict regulations about who can come in and who can not come in. But I just thought that was kind of wonderful, because she was talking about, there are strangers in distress. Let's go and help them, or let's allow them to come, and we will. And the other thing was, you see, it was partly in Germany's own interest.
I was waiting for you to come to that.
That they're an aging population, and they need younger blood coming in, and they need people to do all sorts of menial tasks.
Jude, apparently, as usual, there's always proviso, but apparently for a successful economy, for everybody getting a pension, you need 5 people working. Germany's doing to something like 2, because a lot of the Germans made up, the families not to have children. The Germans like their skiing, and they like their foreign holidays, and they like their Mercedes. They're a very sort of materialistic, and and if you go to Spain or anywhere, you'll find that the Germans are staying in the best hotels, drive the best cars, and are dressed the best. They love all that social, that sort of thing. So, and children get on the way, and college fees and all the rest of it. But having said that, you're right. Merkel, she got a lot of criticism, but okay, she was helping the migrants, but it was also helping Germany, because they need, the street cleaners, and they need the chefs, and they need the fruit pickers, and they need Britain's finding that out as well.
But I think the people who wanted to stem the flood of refugees, did they not triumph in the end in Germany? In other words, they spiked the efforts of Angela to do something.
They had to bring in quotas. Jude, I'm not 100%, but they did bring in quotas of some kind, because they were starting to get overrun. They hadn't a facility. Jude, what was happening basically was some of the cities, the health services and the schools just couldn't cope with the volume of. So eventually, I think they eased, or they put in restrictions. But Germany still took a hell of a lot of migrants and immigrants, much more so than we in the Republic of Ireland did, or the North.
But I mean, the Republic of Ireland has got I'm very struck very often by when you see a scene, for example, a football team of young people, or you go into a school to see how they got on their results and so on TV. Very often there are brown and black faces among those kids, speaking with impeccable Dublin accents, or wherever they're from, And I just think that is so healthy for a country, or for a state, in your case. It's just marvelous. And she tapped into that when she said, these people are in need. It's our duty to help them. that's so rarely said by these countries who would claim they're Christian. You
Yeah,
know, they would see themselves as being, if not Christian countries, then certainly they possess the virtues of democracy and caring for other people.
yeah. Sure, a lot of the American politicians, though, the guys though on the right wing, the boys who are the saying God and country, they're the guys that they're the most intolerant and sort of lacking in charity. You sort of go, how does that work out?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
basically what we're saying, Jude, whoever replaces Angela Merkel will have one hell of a job. She has probably been the best leader in Europe, probably what, 50, 70 years.
Yeah, and ironically, she's from East Germany.
Yeah.
So if you hadn't have unified Germany, you couldn't have had her. I gather, though, I haven't been following very close up, but am I right in guessing that her party are sort of having not a meltdown, but they're not going to win the next election?
No, they're not. But usually in Germany, it's a bit like the Republic of Ireland. It's always coalitions. No one party ever seems to dominate. No, I can't remember the name of Merkel's party, but not as the Christian Democrats. But no, it's highly unlikely. In fact, I think it's nearly impossible for them to win a majority.
But they even to be the major partner in government, I think that's going to be
quite difficult.
Almost out of the question this time.
Yeah.
The next time around. But anyway, good luck to her. And she was always, it was good to see her. I think she was such a reassuring presence, really.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You felt it was like there was an adult in the room. You really did. Even the British Prime Minister, or even your man Macron from France, you just felt with Merkel that she knew what she was talking about, and she was calm and capable. Like nurse, hold on to nurse's hands in case of something worse.
Exactly.
Okay, well, having spoken glowingly of one politician, let's look at another politician, or at least political party, much closer to home. And you're asking the question, Pat, which has been asked before, mind you, is this Fianna Fáil's political death knell, the state that they're in at present?
Yeah. Do you know, sitting there, I thought, what is the unique selling point? If I was, in my older life, when I used to be a newspaper editor, you would ask yourself, right, what does the Dairy Journal stand for? What do we say? What's our unique selling point, and so on? And that's what you had to try and sort of figure out. And everything that exists for public consumption has to have something people want. And on. I sat down the other morning and said, what does Fianna Fáil stand for anymore? I don't know. What brought it to mind, Jude, I was listening to Alison Morris, the Belfast Telegraph's political editor, and she says, Sir Geoffrey likes. It's clear that Sir Geoffrey likes Micheál Martin, but doesn't particularly like Leo Varadkar and Simon Coveney. And I went, oh, isn't that interesting? Right away, Jude, my reading that is. Micheál Martin, the leader of Fianna Fáil, the Republican Party, is actually the John Bruton of this era. And that's my honest opinion. I think Micheál Martin has spent more time attacking Sinn Féin than he has trying to tell unionism to get off it.
So, is it in that respect you're comparing him to John Bruton?
In that respect. Yeah, because but he's also almost pro-union, and he's pro-unionist. I watched him one night on RT, and has sort of, what would you say, the way he explained why he was so pro-union, unionist was ridiculous. Like, unionism should speak for itself. It shouldn't have people like Micheál Martin. Like, Micheál Martin's job, he's the Taoiseach, he's the leader of Fianna Fáil, and supposed to be one of the founding aims of Fianna Fáil was Irish unity. And he almost seems to resile from that very, very foundational objective of the party. And I think it's what's that the party now, Jude, you go into government with Fine Gael, and I can't tell the difference between a Fianna Fáil minister and a Fine Gael minister. And if you can, be my guest.
Well, maybe it's a bit like Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson said his pledge was when he was running for office or in the general election, he said that there's film of it, that under no circumstances would he raise the national insurance rate.
Yeah.
And now he said, well, I'm going to raise it. And people are saying, well, then you lied. And he said, no, that's not true. Said, these are totally changed circumstances. Who could have seen COVID coming down the line? And that's true. So you might say that when things have changed, you've got to change your attitude. And Micheál Martin might be, as you say, one of the founding, sort of the fundamental planks of Fianna Fáil is that they are the Republican Party, that they are committed. In fact, both parties are committed to furthering Irish unity. And Micheál Martin does seem to be doing almost the opposite. But I suppose he would say, you see, we're in difficult times. Unionism is feeling uneasy, and we've got to watch that we don't upset them. So maybe that's his reason for backpedaling, or being a bit soft pedaling, at least in terms of.
Nobody's going to call Simon Coveney or Leo Varadkar left-wing Looney Tune Republicans, but they at least stand up for. Hey, wait a minute. We're Irish government. We're Irish. We live on the island of Ireland, and we live in the Irish Republic. And they reach out to unionism, but I think you cross a line. Jude, when somebody like Jeffrey Donaldson and Jim Allister speak kindly of the likes of Micheál Martin, though I'm not sure Jim Allister speak kindly of any politician from the Republic. You sort of go to ask yourself, why is that?
Yeah. But tell me this, Pat, you'd know this better than me. In the South, in the Free State, is it not true that most people would vote for the way their family has voted for years, decades?
I remember a very senior Fianna Fáil politician from Letterkenny who detested another Fianna Fáil politician who happened to be the TD at the time. And I said to him one day, somebody says, look, Pat, wait a minute, drop that. He said, if we put up a donkey in any showing, it would get elected. In other words, that was the way Fianna Fáil could get elected, no matter who they put up, whether he was the village idiot or the local genius. It didn't matter. It was as simple as that. And Jude, for years, there was three pillars of nearly Irish society: the Catholic Church, the GAA, and Fianna Fáil. Those were the three pillars, right? Somewhere along the way, Fianna Fáil, they used to be seen at mass with their pioneer pins and every funeral, and usually the local TD was also the president of the local GA club and so on, and they were enmeshed into every aspect of Irish society. But Ireland's changed, and they sort of said the same. The Eighth Amendment and same-sex marriage. It's almost as if Fianna Fáil belonged to an era, and Ireland's moving in a different direction. And now Micheál Martin sort of went liberal, but he didn't bring all his party with him. In fact, there's quite a backlash, the old traditional values. So Jude, look at the growth in Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin is seen now as a young, vibrant, speaks for this generation.
I was going to say that, yeah. Would it be that not so much that Micheál Martin and Fianna Fáil had done something wrong, but that they were faced with a new challenge, completely different challenge. Well, actually, a challenge so close to what they claim to be themselves that it made them uncomfortable, this idea of a Republican Party.
Yeah. Well, I wrote it down. The most recent polls were for the Business Post and Red Sea. Sinn Féin are on 29%. It's the first time Sinn Féin have topped the Red Sea poll since they began doing polls for newspapers back in 2003. But here's the other thing. The Sunday Times had a poll as well, on behaviour and attitudes as well. And Sinn Féin are on 33%. Now, here's the odd thing. Fianna Fáil are on 21%. But I'm not going to bore anybody to death. But the funny thing was, and on the Red Sea poll, Fianna Fáil were on 13%. So in other words, there's about a 9-point difference on the two polls for Fianna Fáil. So are we saying their obituary is a wee bit premature? If they get 21%, should they be doing all right?
Well, tell us this, in that poll where they got 33%, what if the Shinners got 33%? What did Fianna Fáil get in that one?
21. Fine Gael got 23.
Because just I did spot that other poll where they were getting just 13. And I was thinking, my God, there's 20 points between them and the Shinners, but not so. It's only 12.
The Sunday Business Post, Sinn Féin 29, Fine Gael 28, and what is it, Fianna Fáil 13, and the Sunday Times Sinn Féin 33, what Fianna Fáil 21, and Fine Gael 23. So
Fianna Fáil 21. Well, that's still quite a remarkable gap. 12 points, because it is Sinn Féin's ambition to replace Fianna Fáil.
Yeah.
You know, they really are intent on that, and it seems that they're succeeding so far. Anyway,
But you know, the last week I just caught a wee bit of it. Didn't catch it all because we were driving. You know, they had a big get together in Cavan.
Yes,
and what I thought was odd was they sent out this wee girl, Senator, what's her name? Lisa Chambers. She's not one of the senior team or anything like that. They sent her out to defend, Fianna Fáil, and she kept harking back to, what your man on asked her. He says, like, what is Fianna Fáil standing for these days? And she harked back to Sean Lamass and Donna O'Malley. I know Sean Lamass died about, I think, maybe late 60s, early 70s. Donna O'Malley was dead way back something similar. Oh, and she's Fianna Fáil brought Ireland into Europe. She's Jude, that was 1973. Like, it's like, what have they done now? What is, in other words, she was pointing out to the giants of the past. The only thing she didn't mention was Dave Valera.
Well, I'm surprised that they aren't better at that. They don't seem to have thought that through, because the fact is that Micheál Martin, though we may not like him now, he was the minister who brought in the no smoking ban in pubs and in restaurants. Now, some people might say, well, that just proves he's a swine. But more people, I think, would say that's jolly good. You can breathe when you go into these places now, and it really has helped people's health and all sorts of things. So you'd think that they would play that kind of line a bit more, that we're the party that does things, that changes society. Like Charlie Haughey brought in, tax-free for artists and free travel. You'd think they would.
But he also brought in the Galway tent and corruption and getting.
I know. But their job would be, Pat. Their job as a party trying to sell themselves, as you say, should be to highlight the things that actually are true. They had good things about them, so they should be finding ways of somehow headlining those. But
someone Fianna Fáil were, I suppose, in another way, the sort of Labour Party of Ireland. They were supposed to be there to represent the sort of the working man, and somewhere along the way, Charlie Haughey, as they became the sort of sheepskin coat brigade. The Ford Granada drivers and with the professional classes. Not just Ford Granada drivers, but you know what I mean. What?
Go ahead.
No, so I think they lost their way, and I think they have lost their way. And by the way, one of the other things, and I suppose we've talked about this long enough, but I love that John McGuinness. I think it was John McGuinness. No, was it John? I don't. One of the guys anyway did a report for that big get together. It was 54 pages or something. Yeah. And he said one of the main conclusions he came to, which I thought was self-evident, that Fianna Fáil and during the last campaign had spent too much time attacking another party. Sinn Féin. And by the way, Jude, every time any Fianna Fáil, but particularly Micheál Martin was interviewed, he spent most of the interview talking about Sinn Féin, having a go at Sinn Féin, non-stop. And I remember thinking, God, would you tell us what you're standing for? Never mind about Sinn Féin.
Well, I partly agree with you, because yes, you have to have your own policies, but at the same time, attacking your enemies or your opponents, that is part of the political game, so to speak. And the fact is that their enemy, so to speak, is Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin, something has never been mentioned, and I mean, perhaps it's pie in the sky anyway, but there was a time when Sinn Féin was talking about a 32-county unity, right?
Yeah.
Socialist republic.
Yeah.
There's no mention of that now. What they do is they are working on things that are attractive and helpful for working class people, like housing and other things of that nature. I would have thought that Fianna Fáil would have been better at targeting these things that once were part of the platform for Sinn Féin and now have sort of been more or less gently dumped.
Yeah. No, I remember Martin McGuinness very clearly telling me, it was a sort of socialist republic that they were aiming for. That they've adopted the word socialist very much so, and they used to be anti-EU, and they're now seemingly pro-EU. So you think some of those things would have been sort of hidden, but no, I think. No, the point I was making, Jude, Fianna Fáil almost became obsessional about with Sinn Féin. That's what the point I'm making. Almost to the point of, they didn't attack Fine Gael, they didn't attack the Labour Party. It was just non-stop, and every time. And some of the criticism was actually ridiculous. Particularly anything to do with the North. They would bring up something that happened 40 years ago, as if, can you imagine a 21-year-old voter going, "I don't care what happened 40 years ago."
Yeah. I think that's why a lot of young people are going to Sinn Féin. Just one word of caution I would make. I mean, they do display the all characteristics of a party that's on the way out, maybe towards oblivion, but they were saying exactly the same thing and more back in 2008, 2009. I mean, there were people who wouldn't even, there are politicians who were afraid to say that they were Fianna Fáil. And people really, I remember reading editorials who were saying, this party looks like it's going to be simply wiped out of existence. But it wasn't,
No, Jude, that's why I asked the question. And that's Jude, they've still got a hell of a grassroots. You go into any county council across this 26 counties, and you'll find quite a few Fianna Fáil councillors. And in fact, I'm pretty certain that if you were using the head count of councillors, Fianna Fáil would be the top in the country. So
the interesting thing is, struck me, Pat, and we'll maybe leave it on this topic, but it was that I thought that people, in a way, I didn't want to see Micheál Martin dumped. I mean, I think he's going to be dumped at the end of his tenure as Taoiseach, but I didn't want to see him dumped at all because I was fearful that people like Jim
O'Callaghan,
Jim O'Callaghan, and some of these other people would become, the new face, fresh manager, and give a real boost to Fianna Fáil. But I've been reading some of the articles, and they're saying, even they did have a fresh pair of hands on the wheel, it still wouldn't make a difference, really.
No.
Do you think that's the case?
No, I think
it's Angela Merkel and how important she was for Germany. She was the leader. So would a leader not do the same thing for Fianna Fáil, new leader?
No, I think Fianna Fáil has passed its sell-by date. I think it's a party almost belongs to an Ireland that's passing or has passed, and I think that's its biggest problem. It belongs to an Ireland, a rural agriculture, a more innocent time. I think, and I could be wrong, and time will prove. But the roots are still there, but the growth has stopped.
Okay. What an apt metaphor, given the fact that we both have to cut grass shortly. Okay, let's leave that for Fianna Fáil. At times I feel sorry for Micheál, but anyway, in fact, I did a piece, I don't know if I ever used it, but where I was drawing comparisons between Fianna Fáil's predicament and the DUP's predicament. Both of them actually, as a matter of interest, in some polls, Fianna Fáil's at 13%, as you said, and the DUP are at 13% as well. So
mirror image.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to important stuff. What happened on Saturday? We all know what happened on Saturday. The team that people said will never win. The team that wasn't even mentioned at the end of our last podcast, where you said, "Oh, for Mayo." I'm afraid you got it wrong, Pat.
Well, I guess there were 31 counties hoping. There was 31 counties hoping a certain team would win, and one county hoping another team would win, and the one county won.
You're quite right. Because did you see our friend Pat Spillane? He made a Freudian slip. He said, "I want to acknowledge now. I want to acknowledge they find a very good team won the All Ireland." Now I know lots of people hate Tyrone, but. And the woman who was the presenter said, "Oh, no, nobody hates Tyrone. Not much. Not much."
Anybody in Kerry hates Tyrone. During as with the early noughties, Tyrone just destroyed Kerry every time they met them. Kerry could beat anybody until they came to Tyrone, and they had a real. And Tyrone knew they had some sort of hex on them. And every time they met Kerry, the invincible Kerry, and suddenly they meet Tyrone, bang, gone. Do you remember the wee guy Mulligan's? Remember he scored on one of the most brilliant.
Oh yes, the guy with the bleached hair.
I was right up there with Lionel. He was that was the equivalent of Lionel Messi on a soccer pitch.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Well, they did a job on Saturday, but I would agree. You know, there is something. I've read one or two articles that sort of substantiated this. There is something kind of grim, and determined, and dogged, and almost sort of. I was going to say brutish, not British, but you know, you don't associate them with elegance. Let's say they tend to be very effective and tough. And you don't see them doing glorious goals. Although they did a couple of good goals. But somebody said they're very like Tyrone people generally. And in fact, they might even be the epitome of the northerner.
Are you referring to yourself here?
I think I would be a prime example of a fine Tyrone man.
No, Jude, no, I think actually Tyrone got one fairly true. Jude, they played Joe Jeepers. I'll knock off my phone. Okay. By the way, I'm getting these sort of scam calls, but no, Jude, start off again. Tyrone, I was watching that match on Saturday, and Jude, I thought Tyrone played brilliantly. And there's a guy whose name totally escapes me now. He was going down the right wing in the second half all the time. He was brilliant. He was, I'd say, he was one of the halfbacks, a blonde-haired guy or a red-haired guy. He was absolutely superb. And the levels of fitness were absolutely brilliant. And I mean absolutely brilliant. And Brian Dooher, I don't know the man, but I used to go to Templemore Sports Complex in Derry, and I remember, I think he's a vet. He was a vet in Derry.
I thought he was a vet, yeah.
Yeah. And like, geez, he still looks super fit, nearly like he could be out there playing. But Jude, no, I thought Tyrone thoroughly deserved, really genuinely did. Then at the end of the game, like, I felt really sorry for him. I genuinely do. But Tyrone deserved, and I don't think anybody can have any doubt about that. And that's not been nice. Simple fact of the better team.
I think that's a matter of fact, all right. But again, I would say that many people dislike Tyrone because they have this reputation as being kind of a what would you call it, kind of a dreadnought team. They just sort of hammer in and, you know, plug on and give the odd flashy.
But they played very good football too. You know, I know what you're getting at, this dogged, you know, not particularly spectacular. You know,
once they get their teeth into you, they'll never let go. Yeah,
but Jude, they played very, very good football. They were very efficient. And Jude, remember Germany used to want, you know, they would play in soccer. They play the Dutch, and the Dutch played all the flowing football. But at the end of the match, Germany won.
That's right. That's right. So again, I would put a lot of it down to their manager. It is a fact that when Mickey Hart in his latter years, now Mickey Hart was kind of like the Roger Casement of the Mile. If you remember Roger Casement.
Yeah.
Was it Roger Casement?
No, yeah. Roger Bannister.
Oh, not Roger Casement.
They hanged Roger Casement.
Bannister.
They certainly didn't hang Roger Bannister.
You talk about Freudian slips. Roger Bannister. So Mickey Hart would have been the Roger Bannister of the Tyrone football, because Tyrone never, the best they got was to a semi-final a few times. They never really were taken seriously. By God, he took them and he won them 3 All-Irelands. What an achievement. Now he broke through that, you see, and I think that guys like their present manager or managers, they're reaping partly the fruits of that. On the other hand, having said that, I would still say that Dooher is a fairly shrewd guy.
Mickey Hart, you can nearly see the sort of the foundations, you know, they're there. Like Hart changed the mindset. He changed the winning mentality, and apparently he was unbelievable as a motivator. And the 2 guys that are in charge now, Dooher and the other guys whose name escapes me at the minute, like they were acolytes of Mickey Hart's, because they were both on the team back in the day.
Parts of his system, yeah. Yeah, well, I'm very biased, so there's no point in me talking about it at all.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was overjoyed. I really was very pleased for them. I mean, it is. I mean, I know that Mayo had I wait for the last 70 years, but you know, Tyrone having won 3 All Irelands, they then haven't won any for the last, I don't know what, 13, 14, 15
14
years.
years.
So you know, you feel some joy for them now as well. But I must say, I liked your line. I'd seen it elsewhere, but it is a good one. Will Sinn Féin get winning All Ireland before Mayo? Somebody else said that the. Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
No, somebody's. I read it somewhere. That's the ARA. If I should have statement by P. O'Neill that the ARA feel they'll have an All Ireland before Mayo.
Somebody else wrote that the Catholic Church may have declined dramatically in its influence in Ireland, but it still delivers on miracles.
Yeah.
Or not curses, rather curses. Curses stick. Curses stick.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hurry on then. What was the last one we're going to look at? Oh yes, Ronaldo. The soccer player that I most like to hit is Ronaldo. You admire him though, do you, Pat?
No, I got parts of him admire, but you know, sometimes I think it's nearly an industry rather than a footballer. But hey, Jude, how do you laugh? I was watching, you know, I just knew on Saturday, you just knew. Jude, I can't remember the name of the manager of Atletico Madrid. He's an Argentinian guy. He's the world's best paid football manager, but his name escapes me totally at the minute. But anyway, bottom line of it all, somebody asked him who are the two the best footballers in the world. He says obviously Messi and Ronaldo. And he says, which would you choose? He says Ronaldo. And guy asked him why. And he says, well, he says Ronaldo can win you games on his own. He says Messi has to bring the team with him. You know, and like see on Saturday, I just knew he was the star of the show. Hey, Jude, he scored the first goal and then got a second. And the other night against Ireland, like up until 90 minutes, who pops up to get the equaliser and who then pops up to get the winner? Like, no matter what you think of him and all that, even if he's sitting quiet for 90 minutes, he's always going to do something. And he has. But here's the other final point, Jude. They have sold something like 187 million quid's worth of replica shirts. And by the way, it's not finished yet. United have made at least 13 million profit on that. They had to give, I don't know who it was, 13 million sign-on fee. So that's already covered. Now, apparently, Ronaldo's salary for the year is 20 million. But if he delivers on the pitch and all the commercial stuff that's going to flow in, it'll be the best bit of business United have done in years.
As you know, Pat, I am forever, whenever we're talking about footballers, or other people, or politicians even, I go on all the time and say we should judge them on their skills at the job, not on their, you know, their nightlife or their being exactly. To children or their granny or whatever. And I say that's beside the point. And I have to face that fact with Ronaldo. I'm afraid I allow that dislike of the guy to overwhelm me. But the fact is that what I shouldn't be judging him on is he a nice guy. I should be judging him on is he an effective footballer? And by God, he's an effective footballer. I think he's almost the same age, you know, as Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney was a very accomplished footballer, but is he now an accomplished footballer? Not at all.
His career's
not a chance. But Ronaldo looked after himself, and you know, in fact, in ways he improved himself. Because I remember when he was playing for United, certainly he wasn't renowned as a header of the ball. My God, he's some header of the ball now. So fair play to him, and fair play, smart move by Man United, because they were able to tap into all that emotion. He was supposed to be going to City, wasn't he? He was supposed to be going to. They offered him apparently a big contract, but I don't know how he ended up. But apparently, Patrick, what do you call him, Evra, Patrice Evra, the former Manchester United. He said he called around to see what do you call him, Ronaldo when he was in Real Madrid, and he says he was starving. And he says all Ronaldo had was lettuce and a white chicken. He says that was it. He says all day that's all he ate. He says didn't eat any, didn't touch like any soft drinks. No, water, chicken, and salad. Now imagine having the motivation of about 400 million in the bank or whatever he has. Yeah, exactly. The lifestyle to have that sort of discipline, and you know, Jude, look at him now. He's still super fit.
And apparently, when everybody else finishes training, he goes out and does more. At 46 years of age.
When he was with United, I think he was charged with doing bad stuff with young women at nightclubs and so on. So he was something of a wild boy in his youth, and now he's the model of a guy who looks after himself and
absolutely.
So fair play to him. I take off my hat to Ronaldo, and if he wants to come around to my house and leave anything, like a wad of stuff in a brown envelope, I'm not a Fianna Fáil politician, but I'll be happy to take it.
Happy to take it. On that note.
Okay, Pat. Thanks very much.
Talk
to you Friday.